Good evening. I'm Gillian Graham from the Portland Press Herald, and on behalf of the Biddeford Saco Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the Heart of Biddeford, I'd like to welcome you to our candidates forum tonight. We're happy that you're all here. We're joined this evening by candidates Martin Groman and Susan DeChambeau. In just a moment, we'll kick off the forum with their opening remarks, and then we'll get into some questions. You may have seen the index cards at the back when you came in. If you have questions that you'd like to consider us asking at the end, please feel free to write those down. So I guess we'll get started if you both are ready. Sue, we'll start with you and your opening statements. Mike.
There we go. I don't know if it's the acoustics or what, but for me, the sound's projecting over there, so
Okay.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I want to thank you for coming tonight, and I'd also like to begin by thanking Heart of Biddeford. I think there are a few board members here, and the Chamber of Commerce for putting this together. Of course, I also would like to thank the Portland Press Herald reporter that we have as our moderator, Gillian Graham. She writes terrific articles. So, I am Susan DeChambeau. I've grown up in Biddeford, and my roots run deep. As a longstanding member of the community, I've been an advocate and a leader for change and growth throughout my career, both professionally and politically. I've served you in Biddeford as a police commissioner, a city councilor, a school board policy member, not a school board, excuse me. I want to tell you I've never been elected to the school board. I've been a volunteer in the school policy member. And what I did then, it was in the 90s, was with Bob Melville. We rewrote every school board policy. I just want to say that my dedication to my city led me to become a member of the York County Budget Committee, and my 4 elected terms as Maine State Senator. I represented 6 surrounding towns plus Biddeford. I feel I have the skill set to provide leadership to the council, the school committee, and as according to our city charter, what a mayor is supposed to do. My professional career has been in the field of criminal justice. I was a case manager supervisor in a prison, acting assistant superintendent, and assistant to the commissioner in the Department of Corrections. In issues of great concern and need, I find my methodology used as a case manager has served me well in resolving any conflict or deadlock. For example, when you work 43 years interviewing over thousands and thousands of prisoners and getting their life story, or dealing with a crisis inside a prison, you don't get excited. You define a problem, you gather information, you design an action plan, and then you execute. As I got older, whenever I executed, I thought I've done it perfectly well. I've since learned back up and evaluate what you've done. I will continue to do this in collaboration with the city council, the city manager, and the superintendent of schools. We can work together to become responsive to our city's needs, manage growth, provide service, while also focusing on the need to craft a responsible operational budget and basic tax rate. I appreciate your past support, and after tonight, I would appreciate your vote on November 7th. Thank you.
How come nobody's up front? That's scary. Thanks for coming tonight. My name is Marty Groman. I'm the youngest of 8 kids. I grew up on a farm in Carthage, Maine. It's a little town in Franklin County. Nobody else ever heard of it either. I grew up milking the cows before the school bus every day. Actually won the cow milking contest at the Windsor Fair, set a record that's never been beaten, and I think I was really, really after, in a hurry, to catch that bus. And like a lot of Maine kids, I had this idea that I needed to get out of Maine to be successful. And maybe to continue the bus metaphor, I went away to RPI in New York and got an engineering degree in plastics, and I ended up working all over the country and even in Europe and in Austria, pursuing that in wood composites, and specifically product as kind of a high-end alternative to Trex. And then I realized, wait, I'm from Maine, we have sawdust, I can find recycled plastic. There's no place, it turns out, having gone everywhere, that I could think to go that I would rather be. And I knew that I needed to be in a business-friendly community and where I would find good support. This was in 1998, and I showed up at City Hall in Biddeford and have never looked back. I got a welcome from Bob Dodge, a legendary economic development director for whom our industrial park is now named, and moved out to the mountain road and met Amy and raised my kids here and started a company called Correct Deck, now known as Duralife Decking. And Biddeford was very good to me. I had great success starting and building a business here. I had no real interest or sense of being interested in politics, but in 2011, I voted for a guy named Alan Cassavant. And I want to take you back, if you would, with me for a minute to 2011. Merck was still there. There was tumbleweeds on Main Street. Nobody ever went down there. Elements hadn't opened. Think about that. That wasn't that long ago. And 12 years later, people come to Biddeford from all over the country, all over the world. You see the tours given by the Biddeford Mills Museum. I'll go chat those people up outside my office at Think Tank. They're from all over. They're from Yarmouth and Cumberland, but then they're also from Newburyport and Boston, and then all over the country, coming just to Biddeford. I'm telling you that story because I want to emphasize the difference that a mayor can make in tone setting, in building consensus, in really making things happen in City Hall. And my role will be, as your mayor, to continue that. And I'd like to ask for your support on November 7th so we can keep that momentum going. Thank you.
Thank you both. We'll get into some questions now. We're going to alternate who answers first, and we'll start. The first question will start with Marty. So you just touched on this a little bit, but how do you see the role of mayor, and how would you work with the city council and city staff to enact your agenda and to address issues that you feel are particularly important?
Yeah, thank you, Gillian. So the question is, I think about tone and the leadership of the mayor. You know, as somebody said to me recently, as you know, you've been a CEO and a business leader. You know, don't fool yourself that the job of the mayor is like that. And I think that's right, but I think that the kind of business leader that I always tried to be would be somebody who listened and heard and moved the best ideas forward, and wasn't the type of leader that said, you know, this is how it's going to be, and these are the steps we're going to take. And we've got a great council now, and I'd like to continue that. You know, Biddeford, not that long ago, you know, in 2015, 2016, you would see the police called to the council meetings. I mean, it was, you know, remember how that used to be, and everything that we've built as far as the tone on the council now. And I want to keep us moving forward so that we can keep that positive role. And this is not like the state, you know, under the dome in Augusta. You can have an idea tonight. You can ask me as your Ward 3 City Councilor. I've got a great new idea about bike lanes. We can propose an ordinance and put it on the next council agenda, and it will be in effect the following day. Or it could fail. It could fail 5-4, and we'll all just move on together and work on the next idea. So as an independent, I'm not enrolled in a political party. I bring this bipartisan approach that I just think really is the right way to lead a city. And I think the job is about hearing from you, being told what to do by you. The mayor is should not be an autocratic leader, but more of a listener and sort of finding solutions together. So I'm excited about that. I think that's the right approach. I'd love to do it. And if you agree, I'd be pleased.
Thank you. Sue?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. How do you see the role of mayor in Biddeford, and how would you work with the city council and city staff to act on your agenda and address issues that are important to you?
Yep, thank you. I was a city councilor, so I know what happens there. I want to not answer how I would work with the staff. That's not the role of the mayor. That's what we have a city manager for. I would probably work something out with the city manager in that as mayor, he's not going to get excited when I go down to Public Works to see Jeff Demers. I will see department heads. I will ask questions, or I will tell them some complaints we might have. But it's never adversarial. It's never a difficult thing to do. So I don't want to mess up going up to a clerk and her feeling or he feeling that I'm intimidating them, because their boss is the city manager. The city council, I've been with a lot of groups of people. I served under Joanne Toomey, and I've served under General Nutting. I could mention to you that General Nutting and the council at that time bought Merck. How did they buy that? When my opponent said that it was tumbleweed, there was a vision. You know how much we complained about the smell. We had to get rid of them. So we put out a referendum. We will buy it for $10 million. You guys were smart. You said no. We went back to the drawing board. By that time, we got Merck all upset, and they wanted to leave. We knew that. Brought it down to $6 million, and you, the taxpayer, paid for that. You wanted that, and look what happened. Magic. At the time, I was also on the planning board, not also, but after that. And when Merck came down, there was a line of developers, and this is what we have now. This is what has grown because of that Merck one. As far as working with the city councilors, I've always thought of that. I sit here, and 9 people sit to my right, 7 wards and 2 at large, each duly elected by individuals such as yourself. And so they have a responsibility to either Mayfield or the Rotary Park or someplace else, because they represent that area. I hope to have and convene a group. We should do that. We did this with General Nutting. We went to University of New England for a Saturday afternoon, Saturday day, all day with the city manager, department heads, and just threw everything out. And that's when I will tell the city councilors that I will hold them accountable if I get calls of complaints of a particular area, when I hold them individually, I would never embarrass them in the public, but that's what they're there to do. I have seen some counselors show up at the meetings and open up their envelopes for the first time. That's not being prepared. I want them prepared, and they'll know that from me, and so we can be more responsive to you. You didn't ask the question because the mayor also works with the school, but I would assume you might ask another question on that.
Yeah, we'll move on to the next question. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
thank you.
So this next question, and Sue will answer first. You both have experience representing Biddeford on the state level. How will that experience benefit you as mayor and benefit the city if you're elected?
How did it benefit me?
How will it benefit you as mayor, and how will it benefit the city?
Having been the senator from this area, is that, sorry. There's an echo for me. Maybe it's because I have a week-old cold going. That was a big surprise for me. I'll tell you, I didn't really run for state senate. Never thought I'd make that. Never thought at all. It just so happened my predecessor resigned. And I was asked by people from Augusta, came down, saw me on TV, and said, "We need you." I completed that term, and I completed 3 more terms. Once I sat there, it was easy for me. Not the subject matters. You really have to listen. There's a lot of work, a lot of late nights, but it was easy to talk about Biddeford. It was easy to let them know what our wants and needs are. I then spent a lot of time at Dayton, Lyman, Alfred, Arundel, Kennebunkport, so I could do the same thing. Since then, I have made such good friends. We used to say on both sides of the aisle, well, guess what? We sit next to each other. There's no more the Republicans on one side, Democrats on the other. And that made it easier to get to know people. I can rely on them. I've learned there are different things. You know where they say there's 2 Maines? I really relish getting to know each individual senator and where they represent. Sometimes they're a very religious right. Sometimes they really believe in the Second Amendment and won't ever vote against a gun bill. Once you understand that, there's no more animosity. You just deal with it. They know where you stand, and we know where they stand. And so in that way, I've made a lot of friends, and we're still communicating. I ended in December, and I can count on them. I know how it works. We both do. Those of us who have been in the Senate, we know how a bill is made. We know when to testify. That is one thing I'm going to do as your mayor. When I see a bill, and I will already ask our counselor, Henry Ingwenson, our state senator, if he wants me to go and testify about a tax bill, I will be there. And that's what a mayor in Biddeford should do.
Yeah, thanks, Susan. Yeah, I think this state experience is really rewarding. I do think it's important. I was really pleased and honored to represent House District 12 in Augusta on behalf of Biddeford. What I liked most was constituent services, I found. Early on in my career as a rep, I had a Vietnam veteran reach out to me who had not been getting the appropriate benefits from the VA, and I ran that issue to ground. Was relentless on it, and he got reinstated and got $104,000, and it was just amazing. And to be able to work on that type of thing on your behalf was incredibly rewarding. And that's what's really just driven me to public service. And it is nice to know how Augusta works. It's nice to work here as well. And I think the way we work here is pretty different, but certainly the connections are helpful. You know, I'm sort of fond of saying as an independent, it's not a Republican parking garage or a Democratic parking garage, just a parking garage. Let's fix the parking garage, that kind of thing. I'm a centrist, and I've always tried to bring that to my public service. So I think the connections are extremely helpful. I think Susan's right about that, but more focused locally. And I'll just close with this. One thing that you find in Augusta is there are very few people with a background in business leadership that serve. So I was really quite unique in that way. And I think that's a lot of what I bring to this opportunity as mayor. So I have been in a statewide elected position, but I've also led a significant business. And so I'm really focused on efficiency and transparency in government. And I want to bring that kind of thing to the service in City Hall. I think sometimes we have a bit of a tendency to think, well, this isn't the best way to do things, but it's okay. The taxpayers will pay for it. I don't think about things that way. I really want to eliminate those types of issues that are costing you extra money. I can give you a specific example. We take your water bill from Maine Water, and we by hand type it in to generate your sewer bill. In this era of AI and ChatGPT, why do we do that? Why do we pay somebody to sit in the basement of City Hall to do that? It creates errors, it costs extra time, and it costs you money. And I'm going to really work to eliminate those types of things and just set a tone around City Hall that's positive and supportive, but also efficient and transparent.
Thank you. Biddeford has experienced tremendous growth over the past decade. We've talked about that a little bit already tonight. What do you think needs to be done to manage future growth? We'll start with you.
Look, a lot of people know that a starter home, affordable home, starter home development was proposed off of South Street. That would have been 250 homes in a mixed-use development. It would have been green building with retail. There would have been a solar element, and the type of development I think a lot of us are looking to see. That project got so snarled in every kind of extra, unneeded, unclear, poorly communicated process in this city that they lost their financing. Now, we hear over and over that we need more starter homes in this city, and we do. But we can't have those types of processes that send developers sideways. Now, what's going to happen with that project, I think you're probably it's going to be jarring to hear when you ultimately find out the way that project goes. We had the chance to put something wonderful together, and we do not have the processes within the city right now. We don't have the communication, we don't have the clarity, and we don't have everybody rowing in the same direction so that we can increase the pace of development here in the city of Biddeford. When I am mayor, I will take those problems on. I will clarify our processes. Our staff doesn't know what they can and can't approve. That often happens. Right now, I'm working with an apartment owner who would like to split 2 units into 4. They're good size units. That'll get 2 more people. 2 more apartments is 2 more apartments. Is that allowed in the city of Biddeford or not? Don't know. Nobody knows. Why? Let's clear that up. Should be simple. Should be straightforward. 2 units is 2 more units. After that, we do 4 more. We think we probably need 2,500 more opportunities like that. As your mayor, I'll clarify those types of things. We'll break those processes loose. And many of you have told me that you served on city committees and felt like your opinion was not heard, or that there was a predetermined outcome to that city committee, that the Citizens Advisory Council or the special commission that selected the location for the parking garage was not listened to. We met, we gave up our evenings for months and months. We made a recommendation. They didn't like what it said, so they went the way they wanted to go anyway. I've heard that over and over. I will eliminate those types of things as your mayor. I will clarify those processes so that you are heard from and involved.
There's a lot there. Affordable housing, I believe we should be talking about. I'll begin with how Mr. Gorman ended. I'm going to assume he was making reference to inclusionary zone, zoning ordinance. Yes, it's a back and forth. I first want to compliment our former Speaker of the House, whose bill has allowed us, everybody in the state of Maine, to look at their zoning ordinance and to expand them so that we can build affordable housing. That was the LD 2003. In Biddeford, we have a system whereby you have to change. Let me just go back a minute. I'm on the planning board. And if you come and told me that you wanted to take a house and cut it in four and have 4 different apartments, we would have to make reference to the ordinance to see if that's allowable. It might be allowable on Green Street, but it's not going to be allowable on Upper Main Street. We have to look at that. The inclusionary zoning ordinance that is being proposed and is still being worked on, and I believe Mr. Gorman made mention that it's stagnant in the planning board, or at least that's the assumption I made. And I'll make an off-the-cuff comment. We're down to 2 people in the planning department. And if you've ever been there for 5 minutes, there's a lot of things happening. The inclusionary zoning ordinance is, again, being looked at. It will probably be ready in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So that person who said, I'm not getting an answer, there was no answer to give, is what I presume may have happened. We also have a backlog ordinance or backlog housing we can do. For example, you might have a home up country or close to the Buzzell Road or what have you, and you've got a lot of land. And in back of your house, you would like to build a home for your daughter and her new husband. Before, you couldn't do that because of density zones. This is allowable. And we spent a long time looking at that in the planning board for a simple reason. You go by the house, and to the left of the house is a driveway. And they're thinking, well, just take the driveway and bring house. The driveway has to be enlarged to be large enough for a fire truck to get through. Little things like that have to be in the rulemaking, and that's where we are. A lot of people have called about that. That was impossible before LD 2003. Now 2003, the state bill allows not only us, but it allows Hollis, Saco, Fort Fairfield to change their rulings also.
So
There
if you
are
could wrap
unique
up.
places.
Could you wrap up?
Okay.
Summarize? Thank you.
Yeah, I could tell you more, but I won't. I just want to look at one more. About starter homes. I'm going to end with this one. It's very recent. Biddeford Housing Authority went before the city council where the convent used to be at St. Joseph on Adams Street, Upper Adams Street. Biddeford Housing has been working, I would say, over a year and a half to build 39 units for families only, 4-bedroom units. They had all the funding except for $490,000 or $590, depending which math you use, but they wanted that money. Could you, the city, help us on that? There happened to be $500,000 in the trust fund for affordable housing, and they got that, and 3 councilors voted against that. That would have been 39 apartments, 4-bedroom for affordable housing. Finally, it got passed, and that will be starting in the first quarter of next year. That is amazing. Those are families that are probably close to being homeless, if not homeless. Thank you, and I apologize for that. I should have a little egg timer here. Thank you.
So you just mentioned homelessness. I wanted to talk about that tonight. That's become more visible in Biddeford and in other communities in recent years. What do you think that should be done that the city should be doing on the local and the regional level to address homelessness? We'll start with Sue.
Working in a prison, I know about homelessness. The prisoners I dealt with were either homeless before they came in or will still be homeless when they go out. One thing I learned in 43 years is I don't want to see a shelter in Biddeford. Build it and they will come. That sounds cruel, but if you're going to have a shelter, you better have wraparound services in there and not just a place to sleep, get up, and still go outside. The first thing I want to do, and I know I only have 2 minutes, real quickly, is assess the population that we have here. We have people, I'm going to use the term boots on the ground, our law enforcement officers, our EMS firefighters, and our 2 people that are employed by the city of Biddeford, the police department. We have a substance abuse counselor and we have a mental health counselor. They are used by the officers rather than arrest someone who's obviously in a state of panic. They call these people and they work with them. We need a census. What do we have? Because I think you'll all agree. I don't care if you have 10 or 100. You have to look at, do we need emergency shelters? And that's someone who's really been Narcaned for a couple of times and says, I've had it. We've already got a connection with the shelter in Elford, Maine to help us on that in the Seeds of Hope. We need transitional shelters, someone who's gone to rehab and they've done well in rehab, but now they want to move to another house so they can work at Market Basket. That's transitional. And then there are others who are ready for permanent housing. I would have to convene truly the subject matter experts, those people, and those are the people I would want to talk to. I have already talked with the 2 from the police department. They're the ones who can help us. And regionally, yes, we can't do it alone. No one's talking about homeless in Saco. You can't tell me there's aren't any tents in Saco. And I already talked with the mayor of Saco, Jody and I will reach out together. That's something we can do just in our sister cities. And I hope, and I'm bringing in Elford also. And then the state, it takes a concerted effort to sit down and do that. If not, then we'll still have complaints from everybody. We're lucky we haven't had the problems Portland has with the number of assaults and deaths and crime in those larger tent cities.
Marty?
Thank you, Susan. Yeah, one of the ways I've been sort of framing my campaign is to say, we've got this remarkable growth within the city, and it's very, very positive. As we have said, we used to joke, if people asked you where you lived, you'd say south of Portland, but now you'll say Biddeford, right? So it's very desirable to live here, and that's a good thing. But at the same time, we are dealing with some growth-related problems, and this is one of them without question. And I've been working on it already. I'm diving right in. So statewide, in the state of Maine, the state does keep these stats. It estimated about 5,200 people homeless as we sit here, or unhoused as we sit here tonight. The number in Biddeford is estimated to be less than 50. So we have a real chance to take this issue on, and we need to. It's very, very important. And tonight is a cold night, and we have unhoused neighbors out there in this weather. So here's what I've been doing already. Been spending a lot of time at Seeds of Hope. I think, hopefully, if you know anything about me, I'm very dedicated to working with people in recovery from substance use disorder. I've toured most of the jails in the state, and I've worked closely with people who are re-entering society and realized how hard we make that for them. It's really unfair. We take your driver's license, you lose your car, your job, your home, in most every situation. And what options do you really have? And so reentry and substance use recovery has been a passion of mine ever since then. One of the first things I did was convene something called a Recovery Workforce Job Fair. 5 of those has taken place now, including one just a couple of weeks ago, where people who might not have a cookie-cutter resume, but have real-life skills can get back on their feet right away. And specifically for the unhoused in Biddeford, here's what I think we should do, and I've already got started on. We have a certain magic here because we have Seeds of Hope. We've directed extra funding to Seeds of Hope, but here's the real point. The unhoused trust Seeds of Hope. Most of them go there every day or every other day, and so much of this is about that. As I was first starting on this journey a few years ago, I actually helped somebody get an apartment, and 2 or 3 weeks in, he took the furniture out in the street and burned it. It was a learning experience, right? People need a variety of services. It could be mental health care, it could be substance use, it definitely is health care overall, it's housing, it's a job. So why don't we put all of those services within Seeds of Hope, a place where that trust is already built, so that you know that's where you can go, and when you're ready to begin your recovery or find a place to live or get health care or get a job, you know you can go to Seeds of Hope. So already, you may know that there's a recovery agency above Elements at 265 Main Street. It's called Groups for Recover Together. And I went and met with them a couple of weeks ago, and I said, do you know how close you are to Seeds of Hope? Come with me. So we walked around the corner, past Center Street and up South Street, and we walked to the door, we set up a meeting. Now, already once a week, just as a result of that meeting, there's going to be a recovery coach at Seeds of Hope. I think we need to make that every single day, that there's a recovery coach there. I think we need to make it that there's career and housing navigators there as well, so that when you're ready to begin that journey, that those resources are there for you, and we as a city are there for you. And I want to say 2 quick things in closing about this, because some people would say, that's expensive, Marty, and how are we going to do all that? There is one individual from the homeless encampment that's down by the sewage treatment plant behind Mechanics Park who was picked up by our Biddeford EMTs 21 times in 1 week. This was just recently. So 3 times a day for 7 days, this individual was picked up. What did that cost? What did that cost the city of Biddeford? What did that cost in stress? If you get the reports from the fire department and the police department, look what the top things every week, all year long, medical, 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 medical. So we've got to break that cycle. It's costing us so much to have this problem. I am extremely focused on this issue, and I will solve it as your mayor.
As many of you know, and I've heard some of you talking about this before we started tonight, the municipal budget was up. People are seeing higher tax bills and really feeling that pressure. As mayor, what would you do to help stabilize property taxes and avoid large increases? That's you, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I thought they were playing me off over here. Yeah, so the question is about tax increases, right? And I've touched on this in my remarks already tonight. We're sitting here in a really great high school that's a wonderful facility that receives an ever-reducing amount of state support. So I think that's a key issue. I think we need to work hard to make sure that our state leaders understand how deserving Biddeford is within the school department, because that drives tons of your tax costs. Something like 25% of the students within Biddeford schools now do have some type of individual education plan or IEP or program like that. Those things are expensive to deliver, and that is not recognized within our state funding formula. So that's something that's extremely unfair. And I tend to take that on together with the other mayors who face similar situations. That will do a ton to help reduce your taxes or at least stabilize them. Beyond that, I will continue to push for fair revaluation of our commercial businesses, because within this last tax season, we made big steps. For years and years, the residences have borne much of the burden, and our businesses and commercial building owners and so forth in the industrial park were not being revalued. So I pushed for that as a councilor. We got that done. That, I think, will help. And beyond that, I mentioned specifically finding efficiency. I think that's something that we can all do by working together. We deliver wonderful city services, but let's look, as in my example with the sewer and water bills, for many, many opportunities like that. And to close out on this issue, one thing that I really see that we need to do better is setting a tone within City Hall, and really, frankly, as mayor, I think driving recruitment. We have several key open positions within the city of Biddeford. We do not have an economic development director. We do not have a finance director. I've already tapped into my network statewide and identified an individual who I think would make a great applicant for the finance director position. We can't expect to turn our way out of these issues if we aren't bringing in the new projects that will reduce residential taxes, if we don't have a finance director who will oversee the finances so that costs are not just pushed out to you. As a business person, I do not find it acceptable when we run things inefficiently in City Hall and say, it's okay, the taxes will just tick up a little bit. I will not accept that. I don't work that way. And on your behalf, I'm going to work very hard to make sure if your taxes do go up, you damn well know why and understand and support it.
Thank you. Sue?
Mine's going to be somewhat easy. I don't know if, as mayor, that I'm going to play around with the tax code that established by the state. That's something I would have to consult with the city manager about. I wouldn't play with that. But as a state senator, there are a number of issues, and I've had to write them down so I could recall them, that help the taxpayers here at home. When I first went up there, we had a governor, the governor who refused to swear me in. He stopped revenue sharing for all towns, kept all the money to himself. We have since increased revenue sharing by 5% back to the towns. That's money, taxes that went to the state, and revenue sharing comes back to the city. That would help with our taxes. We've increased, when I was senator, the tax exemption. We've increased the homestead exemption to $25,000. And we've also brought education funding to 55%. Used to be, I can't remember, 47%. So it's now up to 55% of the schools are being paid for by the state. Those translate to savings on your taxes. If we had done none of those, your taxes would be much higher. But as far as there's other things, he mentioned the staffing. I think that's an issue for the city manager or an issue for the city council to ask the city manager why. Why are people leaving? Especially after you gave them 4-day work weeks. 4-day work week, I should say. That has never been asked, and it won't be asked openly, I'm sure. But that's the person who hires staffing. And for people to complain about a department that I work very closely with, the Economic Development Department, the head person has been gone. The finance director has left. The deputy finance director left about a year ago. We're hurting. So I just answered your questions about your taxes. Going forward, I really can't make a commitment. I owned a home. I sold it. I sold it and lived in one of the two only affordable housing tenements, mill buildings in Saco Falls Way. I pay market value, but it sure is less than across where you call the Pebble Mills. I know about paying taxes. It was difficult. When my house went from grandparents and parents and 5 kids living to just myself after my son moved out, I had to make that decision. The person who bought my house now has 4 families living in the big house. I think that's a big mark, a good one, that's what we did with that house. So about property taxes, I performed as well as I could up in Augusta, and I supported all of these to help you. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we're going to turn to a question from someone in the audience. And for this one, we'll start with Sue. Since the comprehensive plan has a goal of making the city more walkable and bike-friendly, please tell us what specific steps you would take to help increase these 2 active modes of transportation.
Walking and
biking.
2 things I don't do. Walking, because I can't. When you've had 2 knee replacements. They heal, that doesn't hurt anymore, but you can't do stairs. Biking, no way. That's the difficult one. Well, the comprehensive plan begins with the planning board. There's so much on comprehensive plan, it's this thick, and you had to pick 2 things. I don't do anything. Well, I will say that the last development we looked at was Tim Harrington's, I'm going to say the wrong word, is it One Diamond? The one where Subway is? Yeah, okay. He owns that land, and we just looked at all the plans. It's going to be huge. In that plan, we did ask about walkability, about bikes, and he is an advanced developer. After a while, you've been on the planning board, you know which developers you can trust, and they do a thorough job, and others, it's like pulling hair out of your head. It's difficult. You know, I'm going to deviate from that. Since I've already told you I'm not a big bike and walking person, but it's in the plan, I do want to tell you something we did put in the plan. I'm looking to see if there's anybody here from the planning board. Something close and dear to my heart is children. I guess I'm getting old and I like kids. I love hugging them. The plan had recreation There's a part, what is Biddeford going to look like 10 years from now? And it had the same old items. We're going to expand the tennis courts. We're going to fix the ball field. We're going to do this. And I just thought out loud, and I see Sean Tapi here as a member, and I said, what about the disabled child? What about the autistic child? I'm not brilliant. I just saw that on public television the night before, and it stayed in my head. And we all nodded in agreement. And we put that in the comprehensive plan, not to forget those children. And as we move forward, to do something specific for children who are autistic and can't go to Mayfield because it's too much for them. Or the child that can't play on the swing because he can't get out of his wheelchair. So that's one thing I'm very proud about, and not just me, I'm proud of our planning board, that we all sat there for a second and said, holy cow, we never thought of that. And that's all it takes. Any of you could have thought of that. Just give us your ideas. Thank you.
Thanks, Marty.
I biked here tonight. You can see my helmet hair.
Yeah, he bikes.
Pretty passionate about this issue. You know, when I'm out meeting people, it's really striking. Maybe you've had this experience as well. You meet somebody who moved here from California who wanted to escape the fires. Somebody that moved here from Florida because they wanted to escape the floods. Maybe from New Jersey to escape the climate disasters that they're seeing there. And this is something I'm really passionate about. I work hard on this in Amy will tell you, in our own home. We drive electric vehicles. I try to bike everywhere as much as I can. And it's certainly a great way to campaign. You get to meet lots of people, and we're making some progress. We got a ton more to do. I've heard from several of you here tonight about pedestrian safety concerns, and you know, I think as mayor and city council, we just have to keep making improvements all the time on this. There are plenty of spots that don't work the way that they should. I just tonight met a guy who works at Maine Pie Company in the mill. Have you had the pies from Maine Pie Company? They're amazing. Get the sour cherry. It's unbelievable. So he walks home from there in the mill and passed 5 points. Now, if you've had the experience of walking through the intersection at 5 points, I don't think you would repeat it on purpose. It's difficult and dangerous, and it's odd. You cannot cross the street at where you want to cross the street. You can't go the way, you have to go in like a U pattern to get around the intersection. And you see cyclist, walker, one after the other, dealing with this. And it's a simple fix. And it's just the kind of thing that we need to prioritize and drive ahead, together with all kinds of other climate solutions for the city of Biddeford. And you know, while we're talking about this and thinking about it, you might be shocked to know that the city of Biddeford does not have a solar ordinance. So, for example, if you wanted to set up a large solar project here to help stabilize energy prices and reduce pollution and emissions and CO2, you can't do it. We don't have that ordinance. For years we've been talking about it, and we haven't got it done. So I want to deliver on a whole suite of climate solutions on behalf of this city. And really all of them are going to be about saving money for the citizens. And I'll just close with a specific example of a climate solution that's absolutely working. So my start in politics prior to being a state rep was I chaired the Recycling Commission, at the time called the Solid Waste Commission. So probably the worst job in the city of Biddeford as far as one of these commissions. But I loved it. And I helped set up that blue bin that you all use. The recycling bin is bigger, the trash bin is smaller, not by accident, right? So we want you to recycle. So the numbers just came in today that we have a record low rate of contamination in our recycling in the city. So we're doing this amazing job working together, making sure only the right stuff goes in the recycling. And we are saving every month now $12,000 because of that reduction. So that's just one small example of this whole suite of climate solutions, including walking and biking, that we can work on and deliver together. And I'm committed to doing that as your mayor.
Thank you. We're coming up on the end here now, so we're going to move into closing statements. And since we started with Sue at the beginning, we'll start with Marty this go around, if you're ready.
Thank you. I want to thank Susan for what has been a really great campaign. I think she and I both have been in some campaigns that have been kind of negative and difficult. You know, I think, still sort of healing from a campaign where, you know, my opponent came after Amy and things like that. There's been none of that in this campaign. So whichever way any of this goes, I thank you for that. You've been wonderful. We're talking about the issues. I think we're both extremely dedicated to the city of Biddeford and just want to give back and offer our services. You know, the job of the mayor of Biddeford is a difficult and I think sometimes thankless one. We made reference to Mayor Casavan and his 12 years of service previously. You know, spend some time thinking about his calendar. He doesn't have a free evening in any week, all month long. And he's at the DDC meeting. He's at almost every commission. He's at the Winterfest planning meeting and so on. It's a job that pays $10,000 a year, so you darn well better have a passion for it. And I do. I think I offer an unusual combination of capabilities to you as a voter to lead this city into the next decade. I think I represent the next generation of leadership for the city, and we have this incredible opportunity to keep Biddeford on the growth trajectory that it's on now, and also take on some of these really challenging problems that we're all identifying here tonight. And I have a unique background both in business and in public service that I think positions me extremely well to take those issues on. As I hope I've conveyed tonight, I have a passion for taking those issues on. I love solving your problems. If the hedge is too far out over the sidewalk, I will, and you can't walk to Hannaford's, I will chase that issue down. You know, if there's if you're unhappy with the way the traffic works or the parking is on your street, I'll chase that issue down. If you'd like to see bigger issues, as we've discussed, like climate issues, I will absolutely be working on those issues together. And I look forward to that opportunity to serve you as your mayor in the upcoming term. But I will tell you this, if I'm not successful, I will still be down at Westbrook Skating Rink, filling it up at 2 a.m. When it's 10 below so the kids can skate. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm talking to myself in my head and say, don't say it, don't say it. Okay. I didn't begin by telling you who I really was. My upbringing, and I'd like to close with my upbringing. I hope I've earned your support why I should be mayor. that I bring both executive and governmental experience and skills. I failed to tell you that one of my jobs in the year 2000 for 3 years was to build the first women's prison and also design the prison and put in the programs in the prison, evidence-based programs. I also spent 17 years in a criminal justice commission with 16 other people for 3, being appointed by 3 governors. You know what that job was? To break down the silos between law enforcement departments. State police wasn't talking to Portland PD. Maine Correctional Center wasn't talking at that time to the Maine State Prison. Took 17 years of looking at all those different facilities and state employees to just break down the silos. That goes back to the 90s. You remember those times. I want to tell you that I was born and raised on Porter Street. Porter Street's that little street across the street from the fire department. I lived in that house until I moved to my mill apartment right now, about 6 years ago. Meme and Pepe downstairs, they owned the White Star Laundry for 101 years. Mom and Dad upstairs raising 5 kids. I have a half-brother, half-sister who are 10 years older than I because their father died in World War II on Christmas Eve, 1944, killed. She married my dad 3 years later and had myself, my brother Richard in Georgia, he's now in Georgia, and my brother Paul who lives in Hollis. I've had the career I've always wanted was to work with juveniles. I did that, I worked with adults, and then I just moved on. I'm instrumental also. When I was a state employee, there was no union, there was no collective bargaining. Whatever was left after appropriations, you got 1% raise, 2% raise. In 1977, I worked with a gentleman who was the president of the association at the time, and I was on the first negotiating team for the state employees to get a collective bargaining. That took 17 months to get a first contract. So those are my skills and my talent, and that's reaching out to people and getting the job done. I see this position of mayor as a leader. A leader doesn't mean you have to do everything. You have to empower people. I will work with the city council, the city manager, department heads, and the superintendent of schools. I don't have all the answers. Nobody does. But I can collaborate and build consensus. That's in my DNA, that I can build consensus. More importantly, I will listen. I got common sense. I've got plain talk. I don't rush to do everything in one time. I will work with the council to be the best team Biddeford deserves. I will be your leader. I will have a deputy counselor or a chair, and we will work as a team. There's no animosity. There's no one I'm better than you. At nighttime, you can look up on the 3rd floor, probably about 9 p.m. I'll leave the light on for you. I will be there. In short, I am a leader. I'm not the boss. Thank you.
Thank you both, and thank you all for being here with us tonight. I hope this was helpful as you prepare to go vote in a couple weeks. Thank you.